Hello everyone, welcome back to Music Appreciation. Looking forward to what we're going to do today. We are going to talk about perceptive listening. We are also going to talk about means, expression, and order. And we're also going to talk about Wynton Marsalis and Cole Porter. So our essential question for today is, how do we identify and describe different elements of a piece of music? What we like and why we like it. There's a Latin expression that says there is no disputing taste. So like we've talked about previously, whatever your taste in music is, that is what you like. And that's just part of who you are. You can like or not like whatever music you want. However, while some people might just say, I like this or I don't like this, it's important to understand why we do or don't like something. That way, not only do you justify to yourself why you feel a certain way, but if you need to, you can also explain to other people about where you're coming from. And by the way, this works with more than just music. If you can explain why you feel a certain way about something, it helps other people understand where you're coming from and why you feel a certain way about something. Because just saying that's trash, that doesn't help anything. That doesn't explain anything. And all it does is just maybe make someone mad because you're calling something trash. So an example of this could be that I'll give a personal example. I don't like the music of Miranda Lambert. I don't like her voice. I think it sounds extremely whiny and corny for what she's trying to go for. I think usually the concept of her songs are extremely repetitive and I don't like them very much. And just the general sound of her songs with the way they're mixed, it makes her voice just not sound very good. It just comes off as whiny and way too twangy, almost comically southern drawl to me. Now, that was me explaining why I don't like her voice. Now, someone else, like the first time I told that story in class, there was a student that was like, oh, how could you say that about her? That, hey, if they like Miranda Lambert and her music, that's their taste. That's what they like. I'm not saying they're not allowed to like it or anything, but that is just my personal take on it. But I also explained why I feel that way. And that's the important part that I'm trying to go for here. I didn't just say her music is trash. No, I explained that I didn't like her music and I gave reasons why I didn't like her music. That's what I'm trying to go for here. Because just saying you like something or you don't like something doesn't impart any information. You can like the way a beat of a song is arranged, or the singer's voice, or their story and what they're talking about in the song. Or you can not like different things in a song, but being able to explain why is the important part here. So before we can fairly judge a piece of music, we have to be certain we know what we're actually listening to. So we have to intently listen to music to know what we're hearing and be able to be familiar with style characteristics of the music. You can't listen to one rap song and say that you know how all rap songs sound. That's not how that works. The genre is too vast to just listen to one thing and act like you know it all. Same thing with classical music, rock music, pop music, jazz. You can't listen to one or two things out of the genre and claim to know the whole thing, because any genre, any kind of music is so vast that you have to put time and effort into listening to music and really pay attention to what you're listening to. And then you can become familiar with what is going on in the music, where, oh, a lot of pop music has this kind of theme to it or has these kinds of style characteristics to it. And then you can decide whether or not you do or don't like it. Or you can look at rock music or rap music or any other genre of music. And if you intently listen to it and listen to a lot of different examples out of the genre, you can gather what is normal for the genre, what is unique to certain musicians as compared to others within a genre. And you can really understand what is going on in that music. You can't listen to one symphony and know it all. You have to listen to different examples by different people of different styles to really get an idea of what is normal in the genre versus what is unique to certain people. And then by listening to those different examples and understanding what's going on in the music, then you can form an opinion of, well, I like these certain things about this genre, or I don't like these certain things about this genre. But you can't listen to one example and know it all and universally like or not like a certain part of it. And this means that you have to be willing to listen to the music, even if it does not readily apply to you. And I'll give an example for this, again, picking on myself again, that for me in classical music, before college, I absolutely hated classical music. I thought it was boring and it would just put me to sleep, and just, classical music is awful, just the most awful thing ever. But when I got to college and I was in music school, I had to listen to a lot of classical music. And in doing that, through the process that I just talked about, I listened to a bunch of different examples by a bunch of different people, and I was able to understand what is common throughout the genre and then what is unique to certain other people. And I was able to gain an appreciation and an understanding of the generals of classical music. Now, do I think all classical music is good? No, absolutely not. There are still some composers that I think their only reason for writing music was to put me to sleep. However, I have an appreciation for classical music, and there are certain iterations of classical music that I absolutely love and I enjoy listening to. But I was only able to get to that level because I had to be willing to listen to music that didn't readily appeal to me, that I didn't listen to it and was immediately in love with it. I had to listen to different examples and gain that appreciation for the type of music. And then I could understand, I like these things about classical music. I don't like these other things about classical music. I like this certain composer, or I don't like this certain composer. And I had to listen to it and gain an appreciation for it before I was able to really pick apart those things and understand what I was trying to listen to. So you have to give unfamiliar music a chance. And that means giving your attention to something more than once before you're comfortable listening to it. Again, going back to what we talked about before, that whole meeting a stranger thing. You're not always going to immediately click with somebody, but the more you interact with them and the more you get to know them, you might become really close and be best friends. Who knows? And the same thing with music. You might not ever completely love a certain genre of music, but you have to be willing to give your attention to it more than once and really try to understand what's going on in a genre to really get what's going on in it. Which brings us to perceptive listening. This is the kind of listening that we have to do in this class, and this is the biggest thing that I'm going to try to impart to you guys over the course of this class, is perceptive listening. The ability to discern musical characteristics and describe them. This is what we've been doing lately when we've been listening to music, and I've had you guys talk about the timbres of voices, or what mood a song has, or the different instruments in something. This is perceptive listening. The ability to listen to music and then describe what's going on in it. So some of these characteristics can be internal, meaning it's in the music, or external, meaning in the society around the music. So an example of an internal characteristic could be talking about the timbre of a vocalist's voice. Or an example of an external characteristic of music could be thinking back to the covers video that you guys watched. He talked about Linda Lindell. There was nothing wrong with the song she made, except that she was a white person making what was then considered to be black music. So the society around her, the KKK in the specific example of that music, said that she couldn't perform her music. It had nothing to do with the actual music, the actual song that she made. The issue here was the society around the music that was made. So sometimes these characteristics in music don't necessarily have to be isolated to, did the singer play an A or a G on that certain pitch. It's a mix of what happens in the music as well as the society around it. Now, every piece of music ever, and this is important, has means, expression, and order. Means is what is making the sound. Is there a singer or instruments, or what is making the sound you are hearing? That is the means. Then the expression is the feeling. What kind of feeling are you supposed to get out of the song? What kind of message is the song trying to convey? What kind of mood does it have? That is the expression. Then the order is the organization of the music. So if we're talking about songs on the radio, is it verse, chorus, outro? Or is it verse, chorus, guitar solo, chorus, bridge, ending? Or is it guitar solo, then a singer sings by themselves, then there's a different solo, and then there's a chorus, and then the song ends? What are the pieces of the song, and how are they arranged? That is what the order of the music is. And we have to be perceptive and open to these characteristics of the music if we're going to really appreciate it. Because we need to know what the means, expression, and order of a song is if we're going to understand what the song is trying to convey. Our first example of a musician that we're going to talk about is Wynton Marsalis. Wynton Marsalis was born in New Orleans, and he is now mostly known for jazz music, but he started out as a classical musician. He started playing trumpet when he was 12, and when he was 14, he got into the New Orleans Symphony Orchestra, which, that is a big deal. This is a major orchestra. This is a place where you have to be good enough to audition and beat everyone else for that one slot in the orchestra. So he was extremely good at playing trumpet. He later went to Juilliard in New York, and while he was in Juilliard in New York, remember how I said New York was a center for jazz? He became interested in jazz music while he was in New York at Juilliard. And by 20 years old, he was an acclaimed recording artist. In 1984, he won 2 Grammys. He won one in classical music and one in jazz music. And nowadays, he mostly focuses on his jazz music. He serves as a jazz teacher and an educator in trying to spread his music. And he is a phenomenal musician. Our other one that we're going to talk about real quick is Cole Porter. He was a songwriter. He was famous for his witty lyrics and his memorable melodies. He was a published songwriter at 11, so both of these guys got started pretty early in their lives. He was a piano player, and he got married and traveled the world writing Broadway music. And sometimes he'd even write 2 Broadway musicals in a year. And for context, why that's such a big deal, a lot of musicals take many years to write. For example, Hamilton is a very recent, very popular Broadway musical. It took Lin-Manuel Miranda 5 years to write Hamilton. And this guy would write 2 Broadway musicals in a year. So he was really good at doing what he did and fast. This is going to be what your assignment is for today, but I wanted to take the time to specifically talk about what I mean when I want you guys to do this assignment. So you're going to listen to 2 different examples of music. You're going to listen to Concerto in D Major for Trumpet and Orchestra by Wynton Marsalis on trumpet. And you're going to listen to You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To, written by Cole Porter and sang by Ella Fitzgerald. So first, before listening, I want you guys to write down what you think you can tell about these pieces just by the name. What do you think you can tell about Concerto in D Major for Trumpet and Orchestra? Or what you can tell by You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To, just by looking at the name? What do you think you can tell about it? Maybe what genre it is, what it might talk about, how it might sound. What do you think you can learn about these pieces just by looking at the name? Again, as normal, you don't need to listen to the entire thing, but a few minutes will do. For the concerto, you do have to skip to 1:38 in, because a lot of concertos have a bit of an intro before the soloist comes in. So if you skip to 1:34, then you'll be able to start listening right where the trumpet comes in. And after listening, I want you guys to try to figure out what similarities and differences you can hear in the music. So it could be something as simple as whether or not there's a solo. Or you could talk about what instruments are involved. Or you could talk about the feeling of the music. There are different things that you can talk about, whether it's a similarity or a difference between the two kinds of music. And you don't have to be extremely specific. You could be more general, talking about, for example, what instruments are being used, or if there's a singer or not, or if there's a soloist versus there not being a soloist. You can talk about these things, and again, we're comparing two different kinds of music so that you can kind of understand what's going on in both of them. So I want you to try to think of what is similar between the two and what is different between the two. And the differences, again, could be something as simple as what genre it could be put into. These, even if it's not very, pinpoint specific, it can be more general and still be considered a similarity or a difference. And that's what I want you guys to get your ears listening into on this. So wrapping up, today we talked about perceptive listening, which is being able to listen to music and describe whatever it is you're listening to. And we talked about means, expression, and order, which will be very important. We're going to keep coming back to means, expression, and order. And we talked about Wynton Marsalis and Cole Porter, and you guys are going to use your assignment in Schoology to listen to a little bit of their music and compare and contrast it. So make sure you complete your Schoology assignments for today, because not only does it affect your grade, but I also use it for attendance. So make sure you get that taken care of. If you need anything, as always, please email me and I'll do whatever I can to help. Have a good day.